You step off the train in Boston, 1876, the year of the Centennial, when the whole country is busy congratulating itself on 100 years of liberty while quietly tightening every corset stay and belt notch it can find. The air smells of coal smoke, horse dung, and the faint sweetness of someone frying donuts for the glory of progress. Respectability here is not whispered, it is shouted from every church steeple, printed in every newspaper, and stitched into every boy's first pair of long trousers. It is the national costume, and nobody is allowed to appear in public without it.
Sunday in an American city is a military parade of virtue. The streets empty as completely as if the rapture had come early and only the respectable were invited. You walk past brownstones where curtains twitch like guilty eyelids. Inside, families file into pews wearing their best black broadcloth and bombazine, hats perched like warships ready for moral combat. The minister, tall, gaunt, usually bearded like an Old Testament prophet who has discovered starch, thunders about the wages of sin while the congregation nods in rhythmic agreement. The word temptation lands heavier than a judge's gavel. Someone coughs, a child kicks the pew in front, a deacon glares. Order is restored. The gospel of respectability is preached in four-part harmony: industry, sobriety, chastity, and the quiet certainty that God prefers his followers solvent.
Respectability is also real estate. A painted stoops, lace curtains, starched, stiff enough to cut bread. A front parlor that no one ever sits in, but everyone can see into. These are advertisements that the mortgage is being paid on time. In the tenements of the Lower East Side, the same rule applies, only the currency is different. A clean doorstep means the landlord will not evict you before the priest comes asking why the children are barefoot. Mothers scrub stoops on hands and knees, while street urchins hawk newspapers screaming about the latest fallen woman. The message is clear. Fall, and the whole block will know by supper. Children learn the choreography early. Boys are told to be little men, stoic, ambitious, future providers. Girls are taught to be little mothers, gentle, frugal, guardians of the hearth. Toys are propaganda in miniature. Cast iron stoves for girls, toy banks and miniature stock tickers for boys. A popular doll of the era comes with a tiny wedding dress and an even tinier moral tract tucked in her bustle. At dancing school, you learn the waltz, but also the precise degree to which a gloved hand may rest on a shoulder without scandal. Fans are less elaborate here than in Paris, but a lady's handkerchief can still be dropped with surgical intent. Everyone pretends not to notice, yet somehow the message always arrives. At dinner tables, men discuss railroad stocks and the gold standard, while women discuss the missionary barrel for the heathen and whether Mrs. So-and-so's new bonnet is really suitable for a woman her age. Politics is masculine. Charity is feminine. Everyone understands that both are forms of surveillance. A gentleman's visit to certain districts on the Bowery is winked at as sowing wild oats. A woman's single misstep is entered into the permanent record. The double standard is not hidden. It is simply declared natural, like gravity or a compound interest. You see it in the posters plastered across every lamppost. Beware the white slave trade. Save the fallen sisters. Temperance ladies in sober bonnets march with banners declaring alcohol the gateway to ruin. Anthony Comstock, God's own postman, stalks the land with a carpetbag full of confiscated French postcards and of federal warrants. His 1873 law makes it illegal to send anything obscene, lewd, or lascivious through the mail. Novels, medical texts, even rubber goods. Comstock boasts of driving 15 people to suicide and seizing 194,000 obscene pictures. The newspapers cheer him on. Circulation rises with every arrest.
Night falls, and the city's respectable facade glows under gaslight like a carefully retouched photograph. You stand at a crossroads. Go to a Chautauqua lecture on the evils of tight lacing? Attend a concert of sacred music?
Or slip into a saloon where someone is telling stories that would make a mule skinner blush. Every choice is a silhouette cast against the lamp. You are always being read, even when no one appears to be looking.
Pressure comes not from policemen, but from the mirror. Self-policing is the ultimate American invention, cheaper than a constable, more reliable than a chaperone. The age perfects the art of making people enforce their own cages.
To Battle Creek, Michigan, where the air smells of toasted grain and righteous certainty. Here, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg reigns over the Western Health Reform Institute, soon to be famous as the Battle Creek Sanitarium, surrounded by white-coated acolytes and the ceaseless clatter of granulating machines. Kellogg is tall, ascetic, bearded like a minor prophet who has discovered the enema bag. He believes the body is a temple and the stomach its front door. Let the wrong thing in and the whole structure collapses into carnal ruin.
His war on masturbation is total war. He writes that the practice causes 96 separate diseases, from acne to insanity. His 1881 book, Plain Facts for Old and Young, lays it out in the calm tone of a man announcing train schedules. Solitary vice debilitates the brain, weakens the spine, dims the eye, and prepares the victim for the lunatic asylum. He recommends bland foods to cool sexual passion, granola, graham crackers, and eventually his own cornflakes, served swimming in milk and moral superiority. Legend claims he invented cornflakes specifically to dampen libido. The truth is slightly less tidy. He wanted digestible carbohydrates. But the legend sticks because it feels true. Blandness becomes a patriotic duty. Country, Sylvester Graham had preached the same gospel half a century earlier. The man who gave his name to the cracker believed spices, meat, and white bread inflamed the passions. His followers slept on hard boards, bathed in cold water, and chewed each bite 32 times. Graham died in 1851, but his ghost still patrols American breakfast tables. In schools and colleges, the campaign reaches fever pitch. You visit a dormitory at Yale or Oberlin. Straw ticks, chamber pots under the bed, and on every nightstand a small pamphlet with a title like Manhood Wrecked and Rescued, or What a Young Man Ought to Know. The illustrations are grim, hollow-eyed youths with stooped shoulders and trembling hands. One book claims a single emission contains enough vital force to create 60 babies. Another insists the habit shortens life by 20 years. The language is medical Latin, wrapped around Puritan thunder, onanism, spermatorrhea, seminal weakness. It answers fear with hardware. Catalogs sent in plain brown wrappers offer Dr. Fleetwood's patent preventative apparatus, a metal cage with inward-pointing spikes. There's the Stevens anti-self-pollution belt, complete with lock and key to be held by parent or guardian. One ingenious device rings a bell if the wearer achieves erection, another delivers a mild electric shock. A popular item is the jugum penis, a hinged steel ring lined with blunt teeth, advertised to cure by pain. Boys wake screaming, convince themselves they are dying, and order another device to prevent the sin that is killing them. The circle is perfect. Fear sells the cure intensifies the fear.
Girls are not spared, only policed differently. Their danger is uterine excitement. Medical texts warn that novel reading, tight corsets, even bicycle riding can overstimulate delicate nerves. Dr. Kellogg advocates cauterizing the clitoris with carbolic acid in severe cases. Clitoridectomy is performed well into the 1890s by respectable surgeons. Chastity belts reappear in modern form, steel and leather contraptions sold to anxious fathers sending daughters to coeducational colleges. A popular advice book instructs mothers to sew sheets together at the bottom so daughters cannot open their legs in sleep. Another recommends a silver suture through the foreskin or labia as a temporary measure. The body must be made to testify against itself.
The same anxieties wear a different mask. Enslaved bodies had been property. Free black bodies are now policed with new ferocity. Lynchings for assault on white womanhood multiply, each one a public ritual of white sexual terror. Respectability for white women becomes a fortress. Any crack threatens the entire social order. Black women are denied even the pretense of purity. Rape by white men is simply not recognized in law or custom.
In the Oneida community in upstate New York, John Humphrey Noyes practices complex marriage and male continence, convinced monogamy is selfish. Free love advocates like Victoria Woodhull run for president on a platform of sexual freedom and are promptly jailed by Comstock. Walt Whitman sings the body electric and is fired from his government job. Underground newspapers print diagrams of birth control devices. Margaret Sanger will be born soon enough to carry the torch. Chicago World's Fair, white city of plaster and electric light, and see the future gleaming. Moving sidewalks, Ferris wheel, Cracker Jack, and amid it all, the Women's Building, where Susan B. Anthony and Ida B. Wells demand the vote, while politely pretending sexual desire does not exist. Respectability and rebellion share the same bright avenues.
Lie in a narrow boarding house bed, gas jet turned low, listening to the city breathe. Somewhere a streetcar clangs, a drunk sings, a couple argues in whispers through an open window. The Jugum penis lies cold in its drawer. The Kellogg brochure curls on the table. The Bible waits open to Proverbs. You think how strange it is that a nation, born in revolution, now manufactures its own chains and calls them safety.
Beneath the panic is ancient and tender, to raise children who will not be hurt, to wake without shame, to build a world where desire does not destroy. But the methods, spikes, bells, bland cereals, laws, sermons, surgeries are baroque, brutal, and almost touching in their desperate ingenuity. To your chin. Outside, the electric lights of the white city glow like a promise that never quite arrives. You learn the first law of American respectability. When desire meets anxiety, an industry rises and calls itself virtue. And somewhere, always, someone is quietly picking the lock.